Okay, now we are going to go into ultimate, I guess like formal prevention or formal fight mode, which is we have our speakers here from the first track, and they will be reporting out a highlight in that track. And so we'll be going one by one, and just come up here on stage into the microphone and say perhaps a highlight. What was the most exciting thing for you that you took away? We're going to start here. Once you've done your report out, you may go downstairs and I will point out the session that you were in so that over lunch we have lots of people that can follow up with you if they didn't get to attend your session. Does that sound good? Okay, Beatrice, we're starting with you. Beatrice was discussing existential hope in the long-termism and futures track.
Yes, so I think we're talking about existential hope as a concept that we should make more use of in general. And I think the highlight was to consider it not so much the opposite of existential risk, but try to think of it as a much broader and just general all-inclusive term for everyone to use, not just people who think very much about the future, but people who don't think very much about the future, or all, basically.
Wonderful, thank you.
I was really hoping we were going to start on that end. Sorry, that was...
Louder. Lean in.
Okay, oh, there we go. I was really hoping we were going to start on that end of the line. I'm Evan Miyazono, I was down here. I was talking specifically around the way that we have 7-ish projects that can work independently, but are trying to piece together to have one cohesive analog of venture capital markets for goods that are non-excludable. So these would be public goods and commons. And I think one of the most interesting things that came out of this was hopefully a prompting of many more conversations that the same difficulties you have of taking a tech tree or a pair of tech trees and merging them is fundamentally very similar to the issues you come across with ranked choice voting and arrows and possibility theorem. And so if you're interested in anything like that, feel free to come find me down later or track me down
Arrows
later.
possibility theorem, nice one. Okay, Anthony.
So our session was, I would say a lot of it focused around how do we develop actually optimistic visions of the future and get them out there and sort of counteract the narrative that everything is headed inexorably into the toilet and that every piece of like positive technology that we develop has like 7 side effects that are gonna make it like a net negative. That can happen, but is not necessarily true. And having that be sort of the assumption and the foregone makes it sort of a foregone conclusion. So I was especially excited or had a little, yes, that's true, from your talk pointing out that when we teach history in schools, we never talk about like the history of the actual progress that was made, and like that stuff goes invisible. I thought that was a great point.
Cool, a nice tail wave.
Okay, I jumped around sessions, so I learned something about how cryo-EM actually works and how we can like determine structure of proteins that I guess we can't put into crystals for X-ray crystallography, and it was super awesome. And I have a much better sense of how that works now. So and also how we can use DNA origami, using DNA for its structural properties rather than its information holding properties, to make these cool little blocks that hold the protein in a specific place so we can take a picture of it.
Cool.
Okay.
Any highlight from your session?
Oh, yeah. So the brief version of my talk was that I think part of the problem why most people don't have a kind of bold, ambitious vision of the future like we all do is that they don't know so much about the past and how far we've come. And so I think we should teach the history of progress in school, and we should make like major Hollywood biopics about discoverers and inventors like Norman Borlaug, and just like make it more a part of the culture to sort of notice and appreciate progress, so that people can extrapolate that trend out to the future. And I think it's easier to believe in a sci-fi future when you understand we are already living in a sci-fi present compared to the past.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, So I was part of the crypto commerce and computing section, and would you like me to cover your part too? Okay. We talked a lot about how we can use cryptography and technology to cooperate together, and the part that I was talking about specifically was what can we use blockchains for that aren't tokens, right? So I think the token aspect of something like Bitcoin, that's gotten a lot of hype. But going back throughout history, prior to Bitcoin, there was the Haber-Sternetta 1991 paper that was using hash pointers and effectively blockchains, even though they didn't call it that, for the purposes of making sure that you could timestamp something and make sure that you have this hash that's timestamped so it's tamper evident. And so I think there's a lot of use cases for something like that, and it doesn't get a lot of attention because it's not as exciting, right? And we also talked about how, as an industry, the cryptocurrency industry or the blockchain industry can kind of come back and use some of these tools to actually prevent fraud. So,
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Kate.
Hi, I'm Eli Dorado. I was in the energy and space track, and my session was on geoengineering. And sort of the thesis was that we actually have kind of an embarrassment of riches in terms of different geoengineering possibilities. And we had a great discussion, and I think people have their own favorite method of geoengineering, and they have some that they don't like. But I think we all kind of agreed there's a lot of possibilities that we could do if we.
What's your favorite?
Enhanced weathering.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, good lunch conversation.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mark Lutter. I was in the Funding, Innovation, and Experimentation track. My talk was on charter cities, new cities with better laws, and how they can be used to accelerate economic growth in low-income countries, Africa and Asia, that are experiencing very rapid waves of urbanization, as well as how they can help push the frontiers of governance and innovation, competing with some kind of high-income jurisdictions by creating much more effective governance and administrative structures that can allow for more technological innovation, and creating kind of new types of technology and pushing the frontier of science.
Cool. Thank you, Mark.
Hi, I'm Josh Hall. I was also in the energy and space session, and I think to sum up the whole thing, the speakers talked about things that we should have been doing and could be doing, and identifying some of the roadblocks, social and regulatory and political and so forth. And I think the questions mostly centered around, well, you've identified the roadblocks, now what you going to do about it?
Do you want to venture out there and make a suggestion?
No!
No! That's what lunch is for.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, I'm Dana. I was in the neurotech track, and my talk was really focused on what does the next 5 to 10 years look like in terms of neurotech that is implementable at scale. And I think a highlight was we had a good discussion over whether or not invasive BCI a la Neuralink is going to win out over less invasive approaches, and kind of who's going to win that race as we think about brain-computer interfaces expanding from outside patient populations and into the general healthy population.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrew Payne. I was in the neurotech track, and I talked a bit about how at E11 Bio we're building tools to scalably map mammalian brain circuits like never before. So we're trying to change the exponent of progress in order to allow neuroscientists to routinely map mammalian brains. And I also talked a little bit about how we're organizing that work. We're something called a focused research organization, which is a nonprofit that is focused on building technologies for public benefit. So, we borrow some things about startup culture in terms of coordination and moving fast in team science, but we're also like academic or nonprofit labs where we try to, get tools out as broadly accessible to neuroscientists as possible.
Very cool. Okay, thanks for joining. Robin.
Last and maybe least, the weather is really hard to predict a month or two out, but we can still say things about the weather decades or centuries in the future. So similarly, tech is hard to predict in many detailed ways, but even so, it is possible to say some reliable things about long-term consequences of tech And so my talk was on my book, The Age of M, Work, Love, and Life, and Robots Rule the Earth, about brain emulation and the kind of things we could say about what that world will be like when it finally appears. It may not be for many decades or even centuries, but we can still say a lot of that. And that was my talk.
Cool. Thank you, Robin. Wonderful. Okay. Well, you came up a lot in our track as well, because I think it's, as I mentioned a few times, but you're one of the folks, together with a few others, that did one of the first in-person Foresight prediction markets at our 1999 member gathering, where people voted by sending checks to our offices. So that came out in our crypto computing track. I, in the crypto computing track, discussed a new book that Mark Miller, Christine Peterson, and I just wrote and published, and that is on the kind of long-term potential of cryptographic technologies for the future of civilization. And we're answering, or trying to ask and somewhat answer, 3 questions, which is, how can cryptographic technologies help us cooperate better as humans? How can cryptographic technologies help defend us against existential risk? And the third one is, how can they do so both in light of artificial intelligence? And so if you're interested in this, I'll be doing a book club on that later today, when we do the Tech Tree Socials and book clubs. But yeah, the book is out and about here, and exists as a free Substack as well. Okay, wonderful. Did people have a good time this morning, roughly? Yes? Okay, cool. I for sure did. That was very, very, very fun. And perhaps at the end of this entire weekend, we can do a whole rerun of also, because we had the exact same tracks at the France event as well, and many people that came from the France event here. And it would be fun to cross-compare also across different events, which of the tracks went well and different similarities across them. Okay, so before I let you go for lunch, who here has already filled in their existential hope node? Good, good. We still have some time. There are, at every one of your individual tracks, there's a tiny little box where you can put your node in. Please, please, please put the node in so we can use it tomorrow for the creative sessions. It was such a hoot last time in France, and we really want to make sure that we can create equally good generative AI art pieces from this event, and maybe we will merge them at the end of it to a grand hooray existential hope scenario. Okay, wonderful. So what we're going to do now is we're moving for lunch, and so grab your favorite speaker, grab your favorite participant. There's lunch served downstairs. Then we're going to be meeting immediately in your focus groups for the PM workshop sessions. And so in the afternoon, again, we have long-term history and flourishing futures with Christine Peterson, Gaia Dempsey, and Jamie Joyce. That will be here. Then we have longevity, rejuvenation, and cryonics. Here we have Jo Betz-Lacroix, Karl Pfleger, and David Fuhrman in the longevity section down there. Then we have molecular machines, computing, and atomically precise manufacturing with Jonas Minev, Kenny Workman, and Yuning Feng in the molecular machines room. Then we have neurotech, BCIs, and AI with Peter Norvig, Andrew Critch, and Jonas Sinek in the BCI space downstairs. And then we have cryptocommerce and computing with Eva Galperin, Dean Tribble, and Marta Belcher up here in this section. And then we have energy, space, and expansion with Adam Brown, Krian Levitt, and Steve Jurvetson in Alexandra's space area. And finally, last but not least, we have funding, innovation, and experimentation with Gabriel Kienberger and Will Morland in the funding section. Then we're going to do another report out, and then we're going to be moving into the socials, Tech Tree Socials, mentorship hours, book clubs, and hangouts. So get your favorite speaker, enjoy lunch. Please, please, please don't forget the Exope node. And in an hour, let's gather at 1:30 in your individual tech sessions. I'll be gonging, but if you already want to move there, that would be wonderful. But for now, bon appetit, enjoy this lunch, and thanks a lot for coming. Thank you.